6. Well, I'm very pleased to welcome two guests into the studio, P Money and Callum from Dirty Records. Welcome to you both.
Cheers, mate.
Dirty Records turns 10 this week, I suppose. Is that right?
That is correct.
Well, this year.
This year, just instead of
Putting a date on it's been a little bit harder.
Yeah. Today, 8:46 a.m. it started back 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly to the minute. It was today.
10 years of great music, releasing music from a whole bunch of hip hop artists throughout New Zealand, I suppose. Really, I guess the first artist, being Scribe, came from Christchurch.
He did,
didn't he? In 2000. Well, it's funny though that the first track on the 10 years album is Scribe 2001.
Indeed.
So he was talking about the year before.
It was because the label, so to speak, didn't actually exist.
Yeah.
Kind of was. It was in its formative years, gestation period, I guess. Formative months, I should say. We recorded that song in 2001, and it was creeping right towards the end of the year when we released it. We actually released it in November. And then the label really became official with the first album in 2002.
So whose idea was the label?
Peter's.
All right, I'll take responsibility.
Yeah.
You want to tell a story?
I was working at another record label called Transmissions.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of imprints, essentially. So we did some drum and bass, some house. And then we were introduced to Pete through a friend, Glenn, from BFM. And we decided that we'd like to work with Pete, but he didn't fit any of the labels, so then came like an imprint off Cog called Dirty, which was essentially kind of...
Because Cog was breaking up into certain... There was, Reliable Recordings was the housey side of things,
Yeah.
And so you needed a hip-hop brand.
Yeah, that was the theory behind it all. And so with Pete, we came up with Dirty. I can't remember exactly how the name came up. I think that was Pete.
I had a ex-girlfriend actually. I was like, I need a name for the label, and there was a Ronnie Size record out where he's like, Dirty Beats, Dirty Samples, and she's like, you should call it Dirty Beats. It's like, I won't call it Dirty Beats, but Dirty's good. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I just walked in the next day and said, we should call it Dirty. Dirty. It was as simple as that.
Label created.
Yeah, and it was there, I guess, because you'd seen some artists sort of up and coming that didn't really have a home, I suppose.
More so, just had a collective of friends, creative mates and MCs and stuff that were aspiring in Auckland and around the country that I just made my friends, like from travelling and DJing and working with them in the live arena. And when I got this opportunity I firstly just wanted to get my music out. I was making instrumental hip hop songs, and then I thought, well, why didn't I collaborate with all these guys and make a full album? And that was the album Big Things.
But I guess it's all very well to say, we're going to create a label and here's a name, but what actually is a label? I mean, what is, what is it? Is it bricks and mortar? What is it?
Well, back then it was just a logo on the back of a CD, to be honest.
Right.
Now it turned into a company and a legal entity and something that has contracts and artists signed to it, so it became more. But that's essentially, it was just a brand to identify music, really.
Yeah. And to give to align a bunch of artists together under the same umbrella.
Yeah, define at the early days, to define a sound, to say this is Dirty Records sounds like this and it looks like this, and when you see a new CD from a new artist, if it's got that Dirty brand on it, that logo, you can expect a certain level of quality and just really good New Zealand hip hop of the highest standard. That was the mission, I guess, from the outset. Because
meanwhile, and the name slips my mind, but you've got the other record label that was kicking off out South Auckland.
Oh, Dawn Raid. Good buddies.
It could have been some turf war breaking out at this time.
There was definitely competition,
right?
Especially in those
for artists.
Maybe, but not directly. More just creatively,
There's been heaps of fights with those dudes.
Yeah, there was a bit of one-upmanship. Like, in my mind, I thought we were making better-sounding records, and, we were, like, the real cool guys or whatever. I don't know. But I'm sure in their studio on the other side, they were doing the exact same thing, and we make better records than them. And that is part of why we had that explosion of hip-hop, New Zealand hip-hop, like 03, 04.
Yeah.
Because both of us were separate proponents pushing this thing forward.
Well, so that's a good question. So what were the golden years?
Yeah, man. 03, 4, 5. You reckon?
Yep.
Yeah.
And who were the artists that really defined that time?
P-Money and Scribe.
Myself. And then
Just
Savage.
don't talk yourself up, bro. It's all right.
Well, all those guys that were on, the track, the Not Many remix.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge.
The three MCs that are on there are still they're the most dynamic, and three of the most successful New Zealand MCs to date. But at the time, David Dallas was on the song, aka Consci. At the time, he was complete unknown.
Yeah.
And it's become this entity of, in his own right, and a big star. Savage was kind of, he was making noise. The Decepticons had stuff out, and then he became a big star off the back of that feature that kind of got everyone to focus on him for a minute, and then he did his solo album. And Scribe was he was too much, man. He was just like a machine at that time. He was killing it.
And so we're talking Scribe, obviously P-Money, David Dallas, PNC, a bit of Frontline in there as well. Was that Dirty? I mean, was there any more to Dirty than that?
Well, we had the, is it even on here? Everything. Yeah, everything. They forgot to write the thing, but Vince Harder. Vince Harder was a R&B artist that we had. We had another guy named Unique who did one record with the label. We've got associates, people like Four Corners who recorded for us, but we never released a full length on them.
Yeah.
Who else, man?
What about a
few other people? Pass through the doors.
No, I'm thinking of Dawn Raid if I say All Semantics, eh?
Yeah. I produced some records for them.
Yeah.
But they were actually on the Dawn Raid label. We branched off and did other stuff. We had the Dirty Dub relationship with Tiki for his first solo.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Did a lot of drum and bass under the Dirty Management brand as well, which was like Concord Dawn, State of Mind.
Bulletproof.
Sort of Bulletproof was ours in the early years.
And then how has the business evolved over that 10 years? Did you end up having to become closer to another record label as a lot of smaller labels do?
Well,
sure.
Recently, yeah. I suppose record labels aren't what they used to be. They're not really the powerhouse of and the industry's kind of splintered a little bit. It's obviously downloads and other ways of getting music has changed the business model. So we got into management early on, started doing looking after a lot of artists and doing a lot of shows, obviously through booking agents and stuff like that. And then recently, in the last 18 months, put the brands together actually with Dawn Raid and formed a company called Frequency.
Yeah.
Where we could have basically better access to bigger networks, condense the business model a little bit.
And help with that distribution.
Yeah, well, distribution, I think Dirty originally was we did a deal with Festival Mushroom Records, so FMR, that got sold to Warner in about
05?
05?
Yeah, late 05.
And then we were with Warner for a little while, then we left Warner and then went to Rhythm Method, and then now we're with Universal under Frequency.
Ah, okay.
So we jump around, mate. Whoever's got the best deal with yeah, the Warner's thing was tough. That was an interesting part of our story. They helped us out quite well in the first instance, and Australia was going all right, and then it just staffing changes and priorities changed, and it just went down the toilet, bro.
Yeah.
And it was a real struggle for about 2 years.
And it's still nothing personal against anyone that's there now, but there's mistakes that were made back then that still haven't been corrected. There's a lot of videos that we have that aren't online because copyright inflict.
And the Warner's the worst for that.
The thing is, they don't even own them. Warner's don't own them, but
it's still on their list.
But
if
they distributed it, then it goes into the big digital database, and then it's part of the machine that's inside Google or wherever.
Yep.
And it's hard to get it out again.
Yeah, and it says YouTube, you can't play this because it belongs to Warner's. And we're like, but it belongs to Dirty Records, and I'd really like people to see our videos on YouTube. And some of them are no longer there.
Yeah. And it's hard to know who to go see or email or contact.
I'm emailing everyone.
So with most of their legal department around the world on this, and it's just they don't even know how to do it. It's an automated takedown service. They have no idea they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that stuff happens with other labels as well. But that's the sad part of major record labels, I guess. Those little things, especially this end of the world.
Yeah. So what about the next 10 years for Dirty?
Well, who knows, man? We are in a really interesting space at the moment where we've got each of the artists doing really cool things. Got David Dallas released a free album last year, which is it doesn't bring any money directly into the Dirty Records company.
Yeah.
But it's great for him as an artist, and we still manage him.
But then on the back of that free album, he then went and sold a lot of merchandise and stuff. Is
Indeed.
Dirty part of that, or is he
Yes.
quite independent?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's just making, I guess, the slight difference between a record company and the rights that a record company owns, and then the management thing and the rights that you can control as a manager.
Yeah.
And that side of the deal. So it's more steered in that direction. So I'd say the Dirty management thing has a long, fruitful future ahead of it, and the records thing is more going to be just continue to be that brand that backs up various projects.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm talking more on the business end of it. It's maybe not what it was.
On the hunt for talent still?
Sure.
I think always, isn't there? Everyone's creative industries, you're always looking for people that are good.
Ears are always open.
Do you always get records crossing your desk?
Constantly.
Yeah.
I get
Demos
that
and
every day. Every day, straight up. I get emails on Facebook, SoundCloud, Twitter, my direct email, every day.
Be honest, do you find that sort of overwhelming, boring, or exciting? What?
The first two.
Overwhelming and boring.
I find it real funny.
It's entertaining. It can be entertaining. Yeah, you're right.
Is that like? But most people, if you're, I might be out. Like, I'm sure people do get signed off demos, and that is how to do it. But if you're really good, normally people who are really good tend to be perfectionists and tend to work on their stuff to the point and don't let it out until it's actually perfect. And by that time, there's normally another mechanism of finding them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in saying that, there's no rules to it. But yeah, normally some dude who's just made his first song and sends it to you, shit's funny.
Cold calling's all right. You know, you got to try it. You got to knock on as many doors as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find a lot of the talent that we've discovered, it's usually through other means. You know, they've made enough little bit of noise on their own where you're like, hey, I've actually heard of this person and they've sent me their CD. You know, or so and so mentioned that there's a talented guy from such and such town. You should check him out. And then I do inquire, and they usually reveal.
It's not what you know, it's who you know in this world.
Well, and what you're doing
Yeah.
to let people know about you.
Yeah.
You can't just hit me up. You got to be active.
Active.
Try and push your songs to Kiwi or to other stations that get some airplay.
Prove yourself first.
Yeah, get an audience.
Dirty Records turns 10 and you're having a party to celebrate with yourself there, P Money, David Dallas, PNC, Frontline and more, 4th of May at the studio in Auckland.
Yeah.
Tickets are on sale at Under the Radar, plus you get a free digital download of the 10 years. Dirty
No,
Record.
You get the actual CD.
You get the CD.
Oh, you get the CD?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty choice.
Taking it back to 2005, mate. A piece of plastic with music on it.
Retro.
Good stuff.
All right, well, we'll...
Put that one in your iTunes.
yeah, exactly.
Upload it yourself.
Yeah. Put it on Pirate Bay. Or,
They actually just blocked Pirate Bay.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, they're about to, yeah.
Yeah, it goes in the next, what was it, 3 weeks?
Yeah, there goes the neighbourhood. All right, hey, thanks, guys.
All good.
Callum and P Money,
Thanks,
thanks for
mate.
coming on in.
Cheers.
Here's Dreaming.
Awesome.
Check it out, 1, 2. Hey yo, I came a long way since back in the day. From a teenager trying to make it rapping this way. Ever since I was a kid, I had something to say. Rockin' mics was a dream, I didn't care about pay. I sacrificed late nights and going out with my friends just to stay home alone with my pad and my pen. Had my eyes on my prize, my mind on my goal. As I carved these rhymes out with my heart and my soul. I didn't have a CD, all I had was a tape. On the dole through my flow was my only escape from a world where they didn't want to see me prevail. Don't want to see me take it all, they'd rather see me fail.